Before you yell at me. Thank you for coming to the Town of North Topsail Beach monthly Aldermen meeting. Today is Wednesday, March 5th, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. If everybody could please put their phones on vibrate, I would appreciate that. And we're going to move forward with the invocation with Mayor Pro Tem Leonard.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we ask that you bless this town and keep it a beautiful, friendly place to live. We pray for your guidance to enable this board to work in unity to make fair and informed decisions today. We also pray that our police officers, firefighters, and members of our armed services here and around the world remain safe as they risk so much for our security. And as we mark the 22nd anniversary later this month of the invasion of Iraq, and pause to remember the loss of 18 Marines from Camp Lejeune's 2nd Marine Expeditionary Brigade on March 23, 2003, in a place called An Nazariya, Iraq, we further ask that you keep an especially watchful eye over our 4 deployed service members who are serving in harm's way, as so many of them, much like some of those Marines, at some point have called North Topsail Beach their home. And finally, we mourn the loss and recognize the contributions of the town of Topsail Beach Mayor Morton Blanchard, who passed away on Sunday, and we ask that you please keep his loved ones in your thoughts. We ask this in his name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, with that, I am going to ask for an approval of the agenda, but before I do that, I do believe we have one suggestion to alter the agenda, which is to pull out of the consent agenda the GWI tax and accounting. Is that the one? Agreement. Yeah, that's what I was just trying to see how it's worded. So I would like to make that motion, request that motion.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Then we are going to move right on to the manager's report with Ms. Darian.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. Beach projects and operations. The Army Corps of Engineer project is continuing. The navigation branch continued to conduct dredging of the Atlantic Intercoastal Waterway and channels of Jacksonville and place beach compatible material along the Phase 1 shoreline. This started on January 28th. They've reported that before the dredge survey came in at 77,805 cubic yards out of a possible 88,000 cubic yard bid quantity. Southwind Dredge has had some equipment issues that they reported, and I kept in communication with the Army Corps throughout this project. Touched base with them yesterday for the latest update. The dredge has more work to do to clear the channel, so they expect an additional 2 to 3 additional days of work at this point in time. The Phase 4 project, the change orders that were approved at the February Board of Aldermen meeting were executed with the contractor, who has continued to haul sand along the Phase 4 shoreline. As of March 3rd, they have placed 118,003 cubic yards throughout Phase 4. The project has started in the vicinity of 3686 Island Drive, has continued to work north. They've been accessing the beach through the 2nd Avenue access, which is beach access number 28 at 518 Topsail Road. The contractor is planning on March 10th to move from using this access to the Jeffries access, which is located here on New River Inlet Road, just behind Town Hall. They will cordon off the area where they are working from during the week. Parking will still be available while work is ongoing, and everything will be fully open and remain open on the weekends. They will be using this access for the duration of the project. Again, this is not a dune project, but a project that places sand on the active beach area. They will continue to haul this season to the extent they have dredge sand available. Any balance in the contract quantity will be hauled and placed in fall of 2025. The potential for the proposed PTC number 8 work can affect progress with completing phase 4. Sand and contractor availability will likely be an issue. Moving on to the PTC 8, which was potential tropical cyclone number 8, which was the unnamed storm at one point that moved through in September. Weekly meetings with FEMA have continued and will continue as required. The site meeting has been completed for the Marina Way crossover project. I've submitted everything into their portal so it can continue to go through FEMA's process. The project will be reviewed by multiple levels of FEMA. It's currently being reviewed by the Consolidated Resources team. The next step in their review process is EHP, which is their environmental team. Following last week's meeting, I've asked staff to proceed with the contractor to start the permitting process so that it can start repairs. The proposed dune project, which is a separate FEMA project revolving around PTC 8, has continued to move through the process with FEMA as well, while we have been working simultaneously, working to prepare bid documents, issue an invitation for bids, and holding the scheduled bid opening on March 3rd. One contractor was in attendance to submit a bid per North Carolina General Statute 143-132 requires a minimum of 3 bids to open bids for formal contracts, further outlined in North Carolina General Statute 143-129. If fewer than 3 bids are received, then you have to advertise for a full 7-day period. After the second advertisement, if fewer than 3 bids are still received, a contract may be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder, even if, again, if only 1 bid is received. Under federal regulations, which is for federally funded projects, which of course this has the potential for, 2 CFR 200.320 requires bids to be solicited from an adequate number of qualified sources to ensure full and open competition. I've touched base with FEMA, the state, every entity that we're involved with this proposed project to determine the best path forward, and it is to extend the bids to be advertised a full 7 days and to have another bid opening, which will be March 14th. That publication has been published this week. Still proposals due March 14th here at Town Hall, 2:00 p.m. I have pulled the Board of Aldermen to solidify a date to hold a special meeting. As of this morning, I have received responses from everyone. You are available on March 19th at 11 a.m. I would just ask that you put this on your calendar. We'll be noticing a special meeting for the board at that point to consider and potentially award a contract to move forward with PTC 8 work. This was scheduled, this is on your agenda today, which we'll still talk about under new business or continuing, I don't know where that was placed, under continuing or new business. But we could still go forward with the second item, so that's why I did not recommend that we amend the agenda to remove the item completely. As I've been reporting, FEMA has not officially obligated any funds for PTC 8 work up until this date. It's been conveyed to me from the board to prepare to move forward with completing the project. Due to funds not being obligated by FEMA yet and the desire to move forward with the project based on current conditions in phases 1 through 3, the appropriate transfers have been made as is outlined in the finance report. And that is the second part that you will approve today, later on in the agenda.
Alice, can I ask one question? You mentioned the Marina Way crossover. I know you've repaired our public crossover at Dolphin Shores too.
Yes.
Are those crossovers potentially reimbursed by FEMA as well, or are those just a town expense?
Marina Way is. I have submitted that for as part of the project. Okay. So that's why we have 2 open projects right now, one for the emergency beach firm and then one for the other work, which is the Marina Way crossover. The repairs that have been done down by Porpoise Place, those were not as a result of PTC 8. While I'm sure it was a contributing factor, it was a storm that later came through with tides that officially took that offline, that particular opening.
I was going to wait till the end, but I wanted to ask her the same thing. Just real quick, so what you're preparing for us is we think we have a chance to get the funds, but in any event, we need to repair the dunes anyway. So we're
Yes.
going forward, we know we've got the money to do it, right? And the problem is if we don't fix them, and there is a storm, FEMA's not going to.
Correct.
FEMA's not going to fix what we didn't fix.
Correct, and then that's what we've been working on the other side, was just moving those funds so that they're available, that you can move forward, and then with the reimbursement that would hopefully come later, then you could put that money back into Fund 30.
Okay, but the point is, we're being prepared to get this thing
Yes.
fixed before something else happens.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
thank you.
Excellent, thanks.
The crosswalk at Villa Capriani, the pedestrian crossing lights at the existing crosswalk at 790 New River Inlet Road have been installed. The only remaining piece of this project is to restripe the crosswalk. This was not completed at the time of the crossing lights due to ambient temperatures required for installation of the thermoplastic pavement that goes down on the asphalt. This work will be scheduled soon. The fiscal year 2025-26 budget calendar has been prepared and provided to the Board of Aldermen. I've scheduled meetings with department heads throughout March 6th and March 7th, which is this week. We will have budget workshops scheduled with the Board of Aldermen. These dates are April 10th and April 14th, which will be public meetings from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Each department will present their budget requests to the board. The board will review a draft budget document. Discussion of prioritization of needs versus available funds will take place. We intend to solicit innovative ideas or services they would like to include and review capital improvement items at that time. April 15th and April 16th, once again, will be a public workshop from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. here at Town Hall. We will review updated draft budget documents at that time. May 7th, at the regular scheduled board meeting, there will be a public hearing on the budget. Per statute, the board must hold at least one public hearing on the budget. June 4th, at the regular board meeting, the budget will be considered and adopted. For the workshops, I mentioned 2 dates, April 10th and 14th, 15th and 16th. There have been 2 days scheduled to allow you adequate enough time for anything that you want to discuss, and we could always schedule more if necessary. Past years, same process, if workshop tasks are completed on the first meeting, then no subsequent meetings will be required. But again, if you need more time, you'll have more time as well.
Can I just ask one, it's actually a request, and I'm sure I'm probably the only one confused on this. We have 2 separate beach funds, 30 and 31. As part of the budget process, can I get an understanding of why we have 2 separate beach funds? Because
Yeah.
if we're moving stuff back and forth, that's fine, or if we set one up, I don't know if it's by statute or whatever.
Well,
But I
I-
get confused about having money, we're putting money aside for the beach, and I want to make sure that we're putting money aside
So
for the
Rick
beach.
asked me this earlier today, Alderman Grant did, and I don't remember the answer as to why we have 2.
remember.
I don't know, Alice, if you know, or if we need the historical answer here
no
from
idea.
Tom or Mike.
I don't know if one was maintenance and one was nourishment. I don't know whether it was two
We can
different
address
funds.
it at the budget meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just concerned, Mike, that we move money back and forth, which is fine, it's all for the beach. But I just want to understand why we have different funds. We have one capital fund and it just seems one beach fund would be easier to manage.
Well, and that's part 2 of a lot of the things that we've been going through with a fine tooth comb to clean up. Was, historically, why were things set up the way they were? Are they, the way they are they,
Urban legend?
Yeah.
just the capital improvement funds is a prime example with the fire station fund. This month, you'll see a detailed financial report where we're moving everything into the capital projects fund. That way you can get a full, anyone, whether, if I'm here or the board here, any changes that takes place, it'll be clear on how much was spent on the fire station or any capital project. You won't have to go to this fund or that fund. It's not shared amongst funds. It's all going to one fund.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, shaking out the cobwebs. I think it had to do with when we got the USDA loan.
Yeah.
Oh, that might be
Okay.
right.
I think that money had to be
Obligated in
held,
a special
held in a,
fund.
in a fund of its own and not commingled with other funding.
That would make sense.
Sure.
Okay.
And yet we got a whole bunch of money in that fund now. so-
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to the next item, which is the open forum. Do we have anybody signed up to speak?
Yes. First, we have Edward Quigley, 5521 Cottage Street, Richmond, Virginia.
Button.
Yes, please push the
Matthew.
button.
Turn this on?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Push the button.
The big flat one.
There you go.
Oh, the big.
There we
Hello,
go.
everyone. Board members and attendees. My name is Ed Quigley. I go by Edward on that thing. In 2015, I was impaled by a windblown beach umbrella. The oak shaft went through my left eye, breached the brain cavity. I died on the operating table, and they brought me back. So I have a mission. My mission is to educate on the safety that we need for beach umbrellas. Because of this, I was invited to be a citizen member of a American Society of Testing and Materials task group to develop a safety standard for beach umbrellas. This took us over 3 years. We started work in 2021. A team of engineers from the Consumer Product Safety Commission was assigned to work with us, and they tested beach umbrellas on beach conditions and in wind tunnels for 2 years to develop the empirical data of what wind forces do to beach umbrellas and how beach umbrellas need to be secured. I'm going to go quickly through this, and the reason this is important is because for decades the Consumer Product Safety Commission had advice, guidance, and you have this in your handout, on how to install a beach umbrella safely. And basically it was stick it in the sand, rock it back and forth, and tilt it into the wind. The testing proved that that was not sufficient or safe. And so the Consumer Product Safety Commission, after the standard was published by ASTM in April of 24, in May of 24, the Consumer Product Safety Commission adopted that safety standard by direct reference into their guidance. And I have a handout for the board. And basically, it references ASTM F3681, which is the safety standard for beach umbrellas and anchored devices. And what the team found is that an umbrella without an adequate anchor device is not safe. Even though screw devices are not safe, they will fly when the wind, if it doesn't have any device, 5 miles per hour is all it takes to lift a beach umbrella. So what the team discovered is that you need, for a standard beach umbrella, the 7.5 foot, canopy, you need 75 pounds of resistance to the wind. There are anchors out there that provide this, and part of the ASTM standard is testing methods to determine if an anchor device is compliant, which means it provides that kind of resistance. As part of the standard, a warning label was developed for all newly manufactured beach umbrellas. This warning label was a little more gory than I thought it should be. It's got some blood on it. The one for your lawnmower shows fingers, and blood. So an expert from the Consumer Product Safety Commission helped design this warning. And the reason it's important is because people do not understand that beach umbrellas can be dangerous. There are actually thousands of injuries each year. Not all of them make the national media. I was on Inside Edition, a number of others where there were deaths involved and serious impalements have been on national news media. The important thing is that the public becomes aware. You all are aware now, and probably the best thing that we could do is turn this into a sign that we put at beach entrances. And there's a scan code on here that brings up the actual Consumer Product Safety Commission publication and guidance. So that's my suggestion. I bring it to you to consider for some kind of action to make the beach safer and to prevent people from being injured by beach umbrellas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your time. Oh. That's okay. Who's next?
Ray Chapman, 13 Osprey Drive, North Topsail Beach.
Hey, you left the button on for me. Thanks. First, I want to say thank you to Joanne and to Alice for corresponding with me this week via email, since I was unable to attend the January meeting, with the status of the speed reduction, and at least getting me pointed in the right direction. So I went back and I looked at the statute, and I just wanted to make sure that, like, the town, and I guess the town legal person was aware that the statute that was referred to says that local authorities can, not lower the speed limit, but it has to be upon the basis of an engineering and traffic investigation that a higher maximum speed than those set forth in subsection B is reasonable and safe. So the lack of action, to me, says that you're determining that it's reasonable and safe, and that you've either done your own traffic investigation or are interpreting the DOT's investigation. The two that they did and the 3 times that they showed up were different than, I think, our interpretation. So also it says that the limits set pursuant to this subsection shall become effective when the Department of Transportation has passed a concurring ordinance, unless there's things we don't know, which maybe we don't. The DOT is telling us that they're still waiting on something from you. So it seems like it's just kind of lost right now. So we'll follow up with the DOT and at the state level, which I think is probably the next best step for us. But if there are things that we don't know that are going on, if you can share that information with the citizens, we would really appreciate it. And I guess the last thing was, one of the questions that I had sent to Joanne were how many citizens were for and against it. At the open forum, we counted, and there were more that were for than against, and 42 registered voters of North Topsail Beach signed the petition for the limit reduction. So I know that the basis for not doing anything is also that you've gotten feedback from residents. I just want to make sure that you're aware of those numbers, that at least 42 registered voters took the time to sign the petition, and 28 of them, I think it was 28, came out to say they were for it. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. Would you hit the button?
What, is there we have more?
Hit the button. Sorry.
Thank you.
Do we have more, Alice? Yeah. Okay.
That's all.
Okay, so that, Cameron. Oh, yes, Cameron, go ahead.
Cameron Kegel, 3902 River Road. I'd like to say something on behalf of the people that are working right now that like driving 45 miles an hour to get off this island. We like driving 45 miles an hour. I don't know why we all got to get together to, band together to uphold the speed limit that's posted. Makes no sense. You got a couple dozen people on one back island got a problem with us driving 45 miles an hour. It's always been. So, you got 42 people on a petition to sign. That's great. I got more write-in votes for mayor last time. And I plan on running again because I don't think Joanne really lives here. She got her house for sale. There's a lockbox on the door, I think. How did I go by there? But I just noticed it the last time. So it'd be nice to know you even live here, Joanne. I've been told for years that we're going to get some solutions to the flooding of the road problem on River Road and River Drive. I have for years been giving out suggestions and have never got hardly any replies from anyone that's employed by this town. I've asked for simple stuff. There's a town-owned lot across from me with a drainage ditch. It perturbs me to read that someone has petitioned to get a sidewalk built from his house to the park, and the town's going to maintain this sidewalk. Yet y'all will not maintain the ditch that's on the town land, that's across from my house, that takes all the flood water that drains to that point, and then it exits the backside island. I've also suggested a Hatteras ramp be put at the end of the road. Just like every other beach town that allows driving on the beach, they got a ramp. So when the ocean comes in, it don't roll down the road. That suggestion's never been followed up on. I see you're handing out certificates of appreciation I've done a lot of different things with this town. I've organized a Christmas tree collection that y'all just grind up into mulch now. We were making dunes. My only appreciation I got with that was a call from a town employee at the time saying I had to go help move 400 some odd trees with my personal truck. I've been on boards out here. I resigned. Your communication with your volunteers is terrible. I never even got a letter saying, we accept your resignation, Cameron, from the Board of Adjustment. We accept your resignation on the the revetment committee. And that's another thing I'd like to talk about. What's happening with the $650,000 that was set aside? I don't know. 8 years ago? Where's that money? I saw in your last agenda that y'all were looking at putting money on sandbags something. We got $650,000 in the bank. We couldn't have a meeting for a year and a half, so I quit the committee. It's defunct. Thank you all on your time.
Thank you, Cameron.
Jonathan Evans, 547 New River Inlet. I'm a disabled veteran. I can't access the park, as y'all know. On my dime, I'm trying to put in a path so I can walk, after serving my country for 27 years, to the park without getting hit. And the speed limit, I invite the town board on June 22nd to my house. Send me what you guys want to eat. We will then take a walk from my house to the park, hand in hand, at 45 miles an hour, and we'll see if you're scared. We'll see if a 8-year-old child will not get hit, in your opinion. So I appreciate your service to the town, and I'm sorry they didn't accept your resignation or whatever issues you have. But north of the park, during beach season, for people like me who are disabled, for my children, it is unsafe as there is no sidewalk or access to get to parks and beach access points for those in the middle. And again, I invite you to my house June 22nd. We'll have some brunch, have a good thing, and we'll try to walk to the park. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I got no problem you spending your money. I just got tired of problems with the town taking on projects that, and they can't even maintain the stuff we already have.
Sergeant at Arms.
Oh, I'm glad you were able to do that.
Okay, so is there anybody else that would like to speak? All right, we're gonna move on to the next item on the agenda, which is public presentations, and I do have some certificates of appreciation to hand out today. I'm gonna read them off, and if you're here, if you could please come up. We've got Steve Schreiber, I don't see him, Deborah Coltrane,
Nope.
Stu Harness, and Scott Morse. Okay, so then we will reach out to them and be able to pass them out for their service on the board. The next item is
Coastal engineering.
Coastal Engineer Monthly Update with Mr. Fran Lay. Hi, Fran, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, you are good to go.
Okay, let me share my screen. Here we have an overview of the town shoreline. About 11 miles of shoreline from phase 1 down to phase 5. Phase 1 up near the New River Inlet, and phase 5 down near Surf City. There are projects planned either last year, this year, or next year for all sections of shoreline, all the reaches. And we will go over these projects individually. As Alice mentioned, the Corps is finishing up this project where it's the intercoastal waterway dredging. They're out here along the intercoastal waterway. And it's a lot of pipeline. It's a challenging project, and even for a good outfit, I do think South Winds is a good dredging outfit. They did have, as Alice mentioned, several mechanical issues. They need at least 2 booster pumps to get the material from the intercoastal waterway to the phase 1 shoreline. This was an image from last week showing their progress. Their progress is a little disappointing. We were hoping for more sand than that, and then even more beach built. But this is not the town's project. This is the Corps' project, and it is the best use of this material. Here we have the phase 5 shoreline, over 3.5 miles of beach restored. It held up well to storms. It's still holding up well. And here we have the state grant that we're doing right now. As Alice mentioned, the project's going well. It's proceeding as planned. They're a little over halfway finished, and they are going to change the truck access opening to the Jeffries access here the next week. And again, as Alice mentioned, it's about 120,000 cubic yards placed so far. And the material's really good color, and the production rate has been good. The disposal area 143, this is the project that it's another kind of beneficial use project that will move material to the phases 1 through 3 shorelines. It's still, the investigations are still ongoing. This is, a good project, about 2 million cubic yards of material. This is a big, large nourishment project for phases 1, phases 2, phases 3 shorelines. And, we're still trying to get this thing online so it can be done, next year. As Alice mentioned, the PTC 8, the discussions and meetings have been ongoing. With the project. Again, as the board knows, this area is in a Cobra area, and it's still, another hurdle that we have to get over. And so, totally behind the board, really trying to, just continuing to try to get some of these areas out of those Cobra zones. Here's the PTC 8, the net losses. We saw most of the losses along phases 1 through 3, and this is where the project was, the restoration. And as Alice mentioned, the invitation for bid was just a couple days ago, and the pre-bid meeting was the week before that. And now next week we will get, the final bidding will occur on March 14. And we can continue this to try to restore this project. And this is we really want to get this project online in the month of April. And then just to recap, we have the phase 1 shoreline for the core project. That's about 80,000 cubic yards, and the South Winds is finishing up right now. The New River Inlet Management Master Plan, EIS, that is the one discussing the terminal groin. That one, there has been some movement, but it has been slower than we would like. And we're continuing to try to meet with the Corps and with the Dial 40 to try to keep this thing moving forward and get that draft EIS out. The state grant, that's 230,000 cubic yards in phase 4. That's proceeding as planned. And, the PTC 8 has been going forward as planned. The permitting is, underway and is, pretty been favorable, the permitting. The bidding is going as planned. And obviously the coordination with FEMA is definitely, there's a lot of bureaucracy in there, but we are trying to kind of plow through that as quickly as possible. disposal area 143, that's the beneficial reuse project. That is going forward as well. And then I'm continuing to work with the North Topsail Beach Finance Officer and DEC Associates, kind of just regarding the funding of all the FEMA and state projects that the town has working. And then grant coordination and permit coordination on all projects. And that is my update.
Fran, I do have one question. For the PTC 8, what I call the no-name storm, if we're able to get that awarded, and I think you said potentially get it started in April, will we have enough time to get that done, or will we be forced off the beach?
It will be tight. This is a FEMA project, and FEMA projects are allowed to get extended into May.
Okay.
But as the board knows, that the tourism season really starts kicking up in May, and that does kind of all that beach activity with tourists on the beach is difficult and presents some kind of safety problems. But there is some confidence that the contractor can get about 60,000 cubic yards a month. And so if barring any kind of mechanical delays or major weather delays, we do think it can happen.
And then do we have it in the request also to have the dunes replanted?
That'll be
Yes.
a subsequent project.
That's separate. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, that was it.
I just have two quick ones. Permitting on 1, 2, and 3 is moving forward. I saw that on your list, so we are moving forward with that, correct?
Yes, this is a dune restoration, so we do not have to go for the Army Corps of Engineers, and this is only a CAMA permit. And CAMA has been working with us to kind of run it through all the agency review and everything, and they're confident they can get that modification completed.
Okay, I mean, what I'm talking about is putting in the stuff that we've talked about with the BISAC committee to be able to do the long-term plan. We're still moving forward with that. The one that Chris is coordinating? We've got the
Yes.
money in there, so we're moving forward with that, correct?
The permitting process.
The permitting, there's two different
Oh,
issues here. There's a lot of
yeah, right,
confusion.
that-
Right, there's confusion on people's part that
Yes.
says, we approved the permitting to go forward last year. That's separate from for agreeing to spend the money for those projects because we don't have that money yet. The whole idea is just to get the permits in place. So we are moving forward with that, correct?
I will have to double check with Chris Gibson on that.
Okay.
That's fine.
That's fine.
But
That's fine.
Yes.
And then just real quick,
Okay.
when we submit, was it you're the one that knows, PTC 8? When we submit that to them, is it we're asking for a certain amount of cubic yards, or are we asking for money, or both?
we are just asking for kind of an environmental assessment of the project and its effects on the beach system and any kind of, flora or fauna on the beach. That's all that's all we're asking.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions for Fran? Okay, thank you, Fran, very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, next item I have is the consent agenda. We had already made a motion to remove the GWI tax and accounting amendment from there. So with that change, do I have an approval on the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion that we approve the consent agenda as modified.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, then, the next item would be continuing business. And I believe what we'd like to do is ask the attorney to just kind of walk us through what the red line changes were, and then we'd be able to make a motion accordingly.
Yes, ma'am. So the GWI Tax and Accounting Engagement Agreement amendment that was in your packet has been amended to include 3 changes. In Section 1, under Amendment to Exhibit A, language was added at the end where it says, amended by adding the following enumerated services, and the new language says, in the order of the town's priority of completion. So that prioritizes A through L in terms of interest for the town and for guidance for GWI. The second amendment was under number 4 on page 2. That new language continues after deems relevant in the completion of said work, and it says, as well as statements of progress to high priority tasks, which instructs GWI to provide progress reports. And then the last item is on number 3, which is a new number 6. And that new number 6 states GWI agrees that GWI will not bill the town in excess of 8 hours per day per individual without the prior written approval from the town manager. Those are the 3 major changes, and then just a minor change at the bottom, the pre-audit language.
Okay, so then do we, why don't we have a motion, a second, and then if there's any discussion, we can have that.
Motion to approve?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion or questions for the attorney?
Only to Chip to apologize for getting my comments in late, so we had to do it this way.
That's okay, thank you.
Okay, then, do I have an all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let's move forward. Under new business, we still have on here, and Ms. Darian had mentioned it about the truck haul for PTC 8. So we are not awarding the contract today because we only had the one, and we're going back out to rebid. So I am requesting a motion to approve the budget amendment 2025-25.19 and budget amendment 2025-25.20 to make the funds available to proceed with this project as outlined.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just one quick clarification, I think that Alice gave me before, is that approving this, we don't know what the bids come in at.
Right.
So all we're doing is saying, go forward and get it done. If the bids come out and we can't afford it or whatever, we still have the ability to do that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I'm fine. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The next item is Ms. Darian. She's going to talk with us about the request from Mr. Edmonds to construct a 4-foot pathway from 547 New River Inlet Road to Mr. Peters Park within the DOT right-of-way.
Yes, thank you. So Mr. Edmonds, who is with us this morning, has requested the board to consider to construct the 4-foot pathway, as you stated, from 547 New River Inlet Road to Richard Peters Park within the NCDOT right-of-way. He made this request right before the last board meeting. So I was doing some back and forth work with the NCDOT just to confirm, should the board want to move forward with this agreement, that this is the correct form, which they have stated that it is. So the board, if they're wanting to, this would be the agreement that you would move forward with. I've also contacted W.K. Dixon, who is our engineer working on the stormwater improvements projects at Gray Street, and then also along New River Inlet Road where Richard Peters Park is located, to make sure that doing so, if the board goes forward, that this would not conflict with any of those plans, which it will not. And I've also asked about any long-term maintenance, if they felt, in their professional opinion, within the next 10 years, they don't anticipate any expenses to the town outside of regular maintenance within the next 10 years on maintenance of that type of pathway.
So,
Can I add something?
yes, please.
There we
Yes,
go.
please.
So Trey and I, as the town attorneys, have looked at this, and I think that the only concern that we have is that the form's blank. We would advise the board to ask Mr. Edmonds to talk to NCDOT, try to fill in the form, particularly the construction and erection of information, what you're looking for, what you're proposing that be done, and bring that back to the board so the board has something concrete to consider, as opposed to the board trying to approve a blank form.
I'm not asking to approve, can I talk?
Sure.
I'm not asking to approve a blank form. Obviously, I will fund, I just want if it's a DOT approved structure, meaning a pathway, 4-foot path, macadam, almost like, exactly like the bike path out here. It's gonna come back engineered just like that. I just want your verbal, on the record approval that once I put the money in and do the work, that you guys will take ownership of it. I'm not asking you to sign the form as is, but it's gonna be a DOT approved project, engineered to the specifications. I just don't wanna outlay the thousands of dollars and start down this path and then be out, we'll say 20,000 bucks. I'm effectively saving $20,000 for the town instead of making an ADA complaint, okay? So I would urge the town to at least give me a verbal yes that we can go together forward in this venture, so I don't have to escalate this at a higher level.
So I don't think that we're, and I wasn't at the last meeting, I was out, so I'm certainly not at the point of trying to escalate anything.
Right.
I have two just
Yes.
statements, they're not even concerns, but
Yes.
we have been working with the DOT and we haven't gotten a recent update from them because we have requested that same bike path that you're talking about on Island Drive,
Yes, ma'am.
all the way up New River Inlet Road.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
And allocated money.
and we allocated money to that effort in that study. So we need to follow up and see if we have an update on that. Certainly you may be able to get your path in quicker than the DOT is gonna get that project done, but they should be able to feather it in. And so, again, not a hindrance, I'm just letting you know, we did have that request into the DOT as well.
And that was a bike lane.
Right, a bike lane, but that's what I consider if you're talking about similar to Island Drive, that's what he's talking about. A paved path.
I'm talking about what takes town hall here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
goes
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right out to the,
Right.
like it's a 4-foot
Right.
path, you know, on
Yep.
one side or the other.
But the bike lane on Island Drive meets the road, and they may have to do that there just because there's not a lot of space.
Well, right, and like I said, if the engineer says there's not a lot of space, we need a bike lane, you know, I would, anything's better than.
No, I understand. And then my other concern is the only thing we wouldn't be able to do is assure you that it would be private. And again, I'm speaking
No,
for myself because there's bikers and joggers and,
This is purely for the community and the community safety.
okay.
I have no ulterior motive other than improving the town's function and safety in that area. I know it's very contentious to lower speed limits and change that. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to make it safer so that the wheels of progress can start making their way north on North Topsail.
Can I just ask when I was looking at it again yesterday, you're gonna go, when you're tying, I couldn't figure out from the picture, maybe it's just the way I'm looking at it. So you'll either tie into an existing path?
Well,
or
I
you,
mean, that's why we have to
I saw
come to
it.
some
There is no
agreement around
existing
that park, because you guys own the park.
Right.
And I want to partner with you rather than.
Right, my whole point is,
So
I wanna
you
make
tell-
sure, right, I wanna, because you're talking about getting to the park, and my point is, your idea is to make sure that it's tied in so you can get to the park.
Right.
That's all I was asking.
Yeah, I don't know where, like.
That's fine.
You have a plan.
That's part of the
or what-
engineering study,
Yeah.
right, that's fine. I just wanna make sure that, because I was looking at it and I
Well,
couldn't
my-
connect it.
If the only way to get it to the park is to make it to the park, that's fine. I mean, I could walk across the road, right? But I really need something.
You want continuous to get to the park?
Right. I
Gotcha,
mean-
okay.
I think from my perspective, I think the board expressing perhaps a willingness to have enter into these discussions. Again, my only concern is that once you have something concrete,
Yeah.
bring that to the board can vote on that. Again, I think a vote right now and Alderman Grant kind of put his finger on it, it's difficult a little bit to tell from the picture.
Okay.
The board seems to be expressing a willingness to have these conversations. I think that may be advisably today as far as it should go.
Okay. Well, if I start spending money, can I get the reduction in property tax? Because because it will be
Okay.
it will be a public gift, if
Okay.
you will, to the town.
Yes, sir.
From what the attorney has said, where I think we're at, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure some at this table will, you're filling out the form
Okay.
and getting the form back to the town for us to have our attorney check it out and to consider it further. I think that's where we're at.
I'm not sure I agree with that. Your drawing says macadam. If I look up the definition of macadam, that's a gravel path.
No, it's
But you
blacktop.
just said you were building something similar to the asphalt bikeway that we have.
Macadam is
The other
blacktop. Macadam is blacktop.
Well, the definition I saw was packed gravel. Okay, and I've thought of macadams either way. But my real point is, several years ago, the town commissioned a consultant out of Raleigh to develop a multi-use bike path that would go from basically the end of the current multi-use path up all the way up New River Inlet Road. So my concern here is, I know we were talking about adding bike lanes to widen New River Inlet Road, but in the long term, thinking out several years, at some point, I think the citizens of this town are going to really go for a multi-use path for pedestrians, not just a bike lane on to widen New River Inlet Road. So I'm kind of thinking that we're getting the horse ahead of the cart here a bit. I think this should you should go to the planning board to explain what you're trying to do and get the planning board's input so that we know whether we should be approving it as a 4-foot or if it should be an 8-foot wide path from your house to the park. So I'm just throwing out this idea. I think that I would like to see you go and work with the planning board first before you come back to us with your proposal.
This is where we don't have consensus. I'd rather have you go forward, see if we can get this thing done. Go through the steps that you gotta get done, bring it back to the board. I haven't heard anybody say they're against this.
So can we just
Just do a
go around
consensus?
and do a consensus? Because I know I don't get to vote, but I do agree with
for it.
Alderman Grant on this one. I'd like to see what it looks like. And then we already know that we have plans to do something. So from my perspective, I know you need it sooner than what we're getting responses on for the large town project. I'd like to see a way we can, just make sure it all blends together when it's done. But Connie, would you like it to come back to this board, or do you want it to go to the planning board?
I don't know. I just as soon it come back. I just as soon it just came back to this board. I don't think it's a bad idea at all to consult with the planning board, but in order to get it going, I think it could come right back here. I like what Mr. Benson is saying, but if you started with a 4-foot, if it needed to be expanded, we wanted to expand it, we could always increase it to 8 feet.
Alderman Benson?
If not the planning board, then at least work with the planning director to get some sort of a idea of what the construction's gonna be. So we know what we're approving, because if you have a asphalt path and there's 2 lots yet to be developed between your house and the park, every time a construction truck goes across that path, it's gonna tear up the asphalt. And we're saying we're going to have to maintain that as a town, so that's a concern that I have.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem?
Let's say bring it back to this board.
Okay. Alderman Oshowski?
Yeah, I would just try to be very detailed and bring it back to the board, and also put any contacts specifically in their contact information you're talking to at the state level, so that this board has that contact information as well. Okay, thank you.
Alderman Grant?
Yep, bring it back, and like I said, if you bring it back and it's 6 inches wide, we're probably not gonna approve it. If it's 60 feet wide, we're probably not gonna approve it, so you know where we're coming from. No, I like the idea, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for working with us, sir. Appreciate it.
And do you mind sending me the individual you want me to work with from the planning board?
You know what, if you continue to go through Ms. Darian, she can provide you with that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your time and effort.
Thank you for answering the additional questions, too. Okay. All right, the next item is, this says I may ask for a motion. I don't even know that we need a motion. So there's I think it's just consensus as well. There is the annual trip that we go to Washington on with our congressional representatives. Typically, our discussion at that level is on COBRA, and Alderman, or Mayor Pro Tem now, Leonard, has gone many years to talk about this conversation. He has all the contacts up there. They're the right people to be talking to try and push this over the finish line. So I would recommend that this year it be Mayor Pro Tem Leonard and also our town manager, Ms. Darian. And if anybody has any questions about that, do we have consensus? We're
Yep,
good?
better him than me. I've spent enough time in Washington in my career with having to go back there
me too.
again. Thank you for going.
Okay, so then the next item on the list would be, and actually just a point for clarification, is consensus fine even if it said I was going to ask for a motion on that last item, the Washington DC federal meetings, or do I actually need a motion?
What are you trying to approve?
It's really just,
It's just going to a meeting.
it's
Yeah,
just,
I
a-
think
The
we're good.
attendance and plus the cost associated with it.
The cost was already in the budget, so it's already a pre-approved budget item.
Okay,
As long as the board's in agreement.
okay, thank you, Alice. All right, so the next item is the second open forum. Do we have anybody who has signed up for that?
No.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak? Okay, then we're gonna go with the attorney's report.
Nothing to report, Madam Mayor.
Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and, I just have a short update. I appreciate everybody that's come out today. There is definitely a lot of moving parts with a lot of projects that staff is working on and getting completed. And I appreciate that, and hopefully this rain event will be nothing today and will all remain dry and not blown away. So thank you very much. And I'm gonna start with Connie.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out, and those of you watching at home. And thank you to Alice and the staff. Everybody's been doing a great job. I particularly am happy with the crosswalk signs over at the Villa Capriani. That seems to be working very well. It's so visible. It's really great. I think it's going to come in handy this summer. So I hope everybody has a nice March, and we'll see you again in April.
Mayor, Alderman Benson.
Thank everybody for being here today and showing interest in your town's activities. I did stop for pedestrians at that crosswalk, and they hadn't pushed the button, so I didn't get to see the lights flash. That concludes my report.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Appreciate everyone coming out. The trip to Washington this year, again, will be about primarily our getting our town divested of Coastal Barrier Resources Act. As of yesterday at about this time when I spoke to our contact up in Congressman Murphy's office, the bill is prepared. It's ready to be filed. It is co-sponsored by Congressman Rouser, and hopefully within the next couple of weeks or so, it should actually get filed. As soon as it's filed, I'll let the manager know. We'll put something out on our social media and on our webpage with a link to be able to track the progress of that bill through congress.gov. Now, I know I said the same thing last month, that it'd be filed in a couple of weeks, but we all know how government works up in Washington, especially after what we saw last night on TV. And that concludes my report, other than to wish everyone a happy St. Patrick's Day later this month.
Alderman Rashevsky.
I'm going to thank everybody for coming out and for participating in the meeting. I know it takes time out of your day, and it's important to have an active community. I do want everybody to be aware, we do have jobs posted on the town website, and we do need people to share that information with anybody they know that could be out there looking for a position with the town. I don't know if you all keep up with that. Same thing with the projects tab on the town website. If you want updates on our projects that are going on, please go visit the projects update, so that you can see that prior to attending a meeting. Also, Onslow County is doing a lot with strategic planning and looking at growth in the area. What happens in Sneed's Ferry, in regards to water affects this island. I would encourage all of you to start attending some of the strategic planning meetings that are happening at the county level. And that concludes my report. And I'm O' on St. Patty's Day with the Shepsky, just to honor the mother that was the McCarty. Thank you.
Alderman Grant?
Even though it's early, I'm the only one that had green on up here, just so everybody notices for St. Patrick's Day. And I did let the county know at the meeting on Monday that I was very disturbed that they were having a county meeting on one of the most holy holidays, which is St. Patrick's Day, which is going to be a week from Monday. At that meeting, and the mayor told me we don't allow burning here. An issue came up, especially with the chairman of the commission. Apparently, they've had a lot of fires from people burning stuff. And with the winds and stuff, it's been, actually, his house almost burned down. So he made a big deal. So watch the fires and watch the other stuff's going on. They did start up the Onwassa pump station down here. And so we almost lost the head of Onwassa because when they set it up, I sent him a text telling him that all the fittings in my house blew out when they turned it back on, and he thought it was serious. So he almost had a heart attack. But that is going very well, and looks like finally we'll have that going. Also, on the planning side, I mentioned to the mayor, I would hope that we could get the planning director for the county to come down and talk about their planning, because there's so much going on, particularly in Sneed's Ferry, about what's going on for us to get a handle on that for our own planning purposes as well. And I think with that, thank you all for coming. I appreciate your time, and have a good day.
So I need a motion to go into closed sessions for NC General Statute 143-318.11-A. For those of you in the audience, I don't anticipate it to be a long closed session. But can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Need a motion to come out of closed session.
I make a motion to come out of closed session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I will report that no action was taken in closed session. And then I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All
Aye.
in favor? Thank you.